The United Nations nuclear watchdog group says that right now, Iran is just a small step away from being able to make several nuclear weapons. According to officials with the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran has a rapidly growing stockpile of uranium enriched to 60%. It's a level near what's needed for atomic bombs and far above the level used for nuclear power plants. We've all seen the images of Iran's so-called underground missile cities full of weapons ready to go. But of course, the mullahs have assured the world their nuclear program is, quote, peaceful, unquote. The most recent news has really alarmed our European allies, so much so that Britain, France, and Germany want to push back hard by condemning Tehran over its failure to cooperate with the United Nations. But the Biden administration is reportedly not on board with that plan. The White House is said to be pushing European allies against censuring Iran at the new UN nuclear meeting this week. My next guest has a unique perspective on all of this. He oversaw some of the most important and controversial operations in American military history. It was under his direction the United States took out Qassem Soleimani in 2020. He was the Iranian general blamed for the deaths, many deaths of American troops in Iraq. On American military bases throughout the world, General Soleimani has certainly not been missed. Joining us now, General Frank McKenzie, former commander of the U.S. Central Command and author of The Melting Point, High Command and War in the 21st Century. General, great to have you here, and congratulations on the book. It's a fascinating read. I've got to get your take on what the United States should be doing right now to deter Iran. You have said we need to show strength. They are nearing the ability to make several nuclear weapons. It's getting very serious.
First of all, great to be with you here, Elizabeth. So you're right. Iran is very close to crossing that line. But Iran has flirted with that line for many years because they know by getting close to it and egging us on, they can gain perhaps sanctions relief and other things. So the Iranian problem is not only the fissile material, which you described very clearly, they're very close to having enough to build a weapon. They also have to find a way to deliver it. And that means getting a rocket that'll fly it to, say, Tel Aviv or whatever their target would be, perfecting a warhead that would survive entry through the atmosphere at that range. They're a little further away on that than they are perhaps in gathering the fissile material for the weapon.
Is there anything right now that the United States can do to stop this process? And why wouldn't the Biden administration be allying with our European allies and saying with these resolutions? In other words, are resolutions meaningless? What should we be doing diplomatically at this point?
Well, I think we should continue to impose a sanctions regime on Iran. We should continue to work with all our partners to deny them the ability to work the supply chain to get the components they need to finish these weapons. I think those are all things that we're doing and that we need to continue to do. And we need to be in solidarity with our European partners as we go forward, certainly.
You say Iran's massive attack on Israel in January was desperate and ultimately embarrassing for Tehran, exposing its weaknesses and Israel's strength to the world. What did we learn not only about Iran's capabilities, but about what its leaders are thinking right now?
So Iran actually, their highest priority is always regime preservation. Right after that, their next priority is destruction of Israel and ejection of the U.S. from the region. So the reason they undertook that strike was over the last months and years, really, they've been outfought by Israel in the little secret war that's been going on across the region. The strike on Iranian planners in Damascus on 1 April was emblematic of that. So Iran thought they had to strike back in order to reset the table. It's a page from the Russian playbook called escalate to de-escalate. The only problem is if you're going to do that, you have to have a card that can be played and mean something. The Iranian attack failed. It failed because at least half of the missiles didn't fly or didn't launch, and the Israelis, with help from us and their Arab neighbors, were able to intercept the vast majority of those other weapons. So what does that mean? That means that Iran's primary deterrent is now exposed, and that's dangerous for them. They also crossed the Rubicon when they launched that attack, a major attack on Israel that was clearly attributable to Iran. We're in a new space there. And I have to say, actually, I believe Israel's response was just about right. They demonstrated to Iran they could strike back, but they did it in a measured way that did not isolate them from their Arab neighbors, and they need the continued participation of their Arab neighbors in their defense. So Iran is in a weaker place now.
President Biden, switching slightly to the other side of this equation from Iran to Israel, President Biden on Friday said that Hamas can no longer has the ability to launch an October 7th style attack, that it has been damaged enough by the IDF. Do you agree?
Hamas has been attrited. Certainly a lot of their combat formations have been taken down by the Israeli army, but Hamas's political leadership and its military leadership at the very senior levels is still in place. And we know the fundamental principle of Hamas's ideology is destruction of Israel. So it may be that it would be harder for Hamas to launch that type of attack, but Hamas will still aspire to launch that type of attack, and I think that's something we just need to recognize.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.